In every game, many different areas exist, each known as a map, with its own geometry, design, and physics. Super Mario 64 has a plethora of these as both a hub world and many different maps for collecting all 120 stars. However, as development continues, many maps also get cut or changed. So today on Cut Content, we shall be looking at the recently discovered and restored cut maps, altered designs of existing maps, and why these may have been cut. Now, prior to the recent leaks, we didn't have any real levels or even test maps to see. The best idea we had was from the debug level select menu, where a number of empty slots indicated that there were a number of levels cut from the game. Now, thanks to these very leaks, we have every cut level of Super Mario 64 now available to us. We'll start right off the bat with the level labeled as Stage 1. This level is a big fortress-like castle. There isn't a single enemy or object. This makes the level hard to traverse as some areas require a more difficult jump to get to, and some areas you can't reach at all. In fact, getting to the very top of this required a moon jump code. I would presume such sections were planned to have moving platforms where one can use to get to the other side or to the top of the castle. Aside from that, I presume the top area was where the star would have been waiting too. One more interesting note is that there is one interactive feature here, and it's that there is some invisible water here which one can swim in. It would make sense to be there just in case one fell off while climbing the castle. The water would catch them and not land in a near instant death. Moving on, we have Stage 2, which unlike Stage 1, which looked like a clear unfinished level, Stage 2 is a test level. We know this from the colored shapes and patterns which are common with test levels of various games, including the DS version of Mario 64 and various Zelda games. Such patterns are usually used for the purpose of measuring size and physics of objects, enemies, and characters. In this case, Mario's physics to slide are what is being tested here. These slides come in various sizes too to test Mario's slide ability, and we have 3 blocks in front of some slides too to test Mario's crashing motion. We also have these test floors here, which test the sound of Mario's footsteps, each color having a different sound. Lastly, we have a cannon here too, likely to test how far you can shoot to the top of the map, because otherwise only a moon jump code would work. Now we're back to a more traditional level with Stage 3, and it's a very strange looking one with a mishmash of textures all over the place. The level itself is very linear with almost no room to explore and no platforming whatsoever, which is odd for this game as no mainline Mario game is complete without platforming. What I theorize is that this was likely an early interior to a floor of Princess Peach's castle, where you'd run around to find paintings in this hall to jump in. You can even see what looks to have been the painting to an area, but rather than being a portrait, was splattered right against the wall itself. Of course, it doesn't work here. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if some of the entrances to the levels were more subtle at one point, and you had to find them like that wall mural. So maybe this starry sky and this foresty wall might have been the entrance to a level too. Now with Stage 35 here, we are back to another test level, a much more obvious one with the floors themselves being checkerboarded too. And that's literally all there is to this, just a giant flat checkerboard. I theorize this might have just been for testing the distance Mario can jump and run. Moving on! We have another test map called Stage 38, which is used to test Mario's walking abilities in various terrains such as sand or being able to move across monkey bars. What is interesting is that we have a coin hard-coded here, but it's not collectible, but rather used to test a warp point. The one point of interest here is this area in the center, which may have been a simple test area to see Mario sliding into a hole ability and trying to get out too. The next one is Stage 32. It was yet another test level, a more complex one, as it had a block that Mario can push and varied landscapes to test how Mario handles running and jumping at different elevations. Though this cone-like structure is a mystery for what it might have been used for, as there is no way to get to the top of it without a moon jump code. Now, while that was the cut stages of the game, how about the existing stages? What do we know that shows how they may have looked in their original incarnation? Now, numerous trailers do exist for this game that show many of these differences for these areas, including Princess Peach's castle here, which didn't have the mural in front of it at all. The grass for Whomp's fortress looking very different, there being a stepping stone structure in place of the hut in Cool Mountain. These hilarious eyes on these push blocks in Whomp's fortress. Different textures on the inside of Peach's castle here on the way to Bowser in the Dark World. The entrance to Peach's castle leading to the hallway of Bowser in the Dark World. Which is odd, as either this trailer was cut to make it look like this is where you would enter by entering Peach's castle, or this was how the game would have begun with Bowser in the Dark World as the first level. What's interesting is that out of that list that I just gave, 2 of these were from Whomp's fortress. Whomp's fortress saw a decent amount of changes actually, including the way Whomps and Thwomps looked as well as mentioned in the previous episode. However, in the very data of the game, we have one of the few pieces of alterations still available, which in this case, the tower within the level has more angular platforms for climbing the tower. Interestingly enough, it was changed to make it more challenging. I mean, otherwise you could just hug against the next platform and jump up. In Hazy Maze Cave, the boulder that comes down towards you was originally supposed to break apart when colliding with Mario, however, that never happened, but the broken pieces still exist within the data. Interestingly, in Super Mario 64 DS, these pieces would be seen when Wario collides into them with the Super Mushroom power-up. In the level Dire Docks at potentially Jolly Roger Bay, water mines were supposed to exist. They looked a lot like the ones from the Bowser fights, except smaller and underwater. Probably meant to be another obstruction for Mario to explode upon impact. Now, a very interesting change is one that was supposed to take place in the level Big Boo's Haunt, the usage of keys for the level. Now, in the released version of the game, all doors are open and accessible, but various keys were supposed to exist in the game, including a yellow, red, green, and blue key. I imagine this level was supposed to be more of a puzzle in getting these keys by finding certain boos and unlocking all the doors until you make it to Big Boo himself. In fact, an early screenshot exists of Big Boo himself holding a key too. Maybe it was meant to be the final challenge by unlocking the door to the star itself. I imagine it was removed for its complexity, as this level was already one of the more complex levels of the game. While we have a handful of known changes, at least 2 maps that were cut from the game that were meant to be in the game, and a handful of test levels, we have a firm grasp of how this game grew to be the legend that it is today. Now, are there more levels that might be leaked one day? Maybe, but as far as we can tell, the level select menu is now complete and full for everything that they had been running on the game's engine. Any more levels that would have been made during the planning stages, but scrapped before they could have been even tested. But if we get any more, even updates to actual maps that were cut from the game, I'll plan to definitely make an update on it, so hit that subscribe button for I'll be back with more cut content episodes on Mario and other games too. So everyone, thank you for watching!